On the front line, my shoulders are
Oh,
doing what
sorry.
shoulders do best.
T3
Um,
from your frontline player Battlestar
I
off of
this was the point where I
385. Oh my god.
this was the point where I knew we were.
This is AllReasonNoLogic's road to OS25. Let's follow Pradith's journey from starting skill rating 16 as he makes his way to rating 25 and beyond.
G'day people, welcome to episode 7 of Beyond All Reason, the road to OS25, where we are focusing on individual roles in Supreme Isthmus while Prey works his way up the OS ladder, currently sitting at 20.41. Supreme Isthmus is a map that probably has the most variation of critical roles in the game. You have air, eco, tech through the geo lane, 2 C lanes, 2 frontline lanes, and a support role, which Prey is playing today. Let's analyse how many of these players in this game play at their role, all while trying not to sound like absolute dirtbags criticising people who probably would beat us half the time anyway. To the battlefield.
Yep, definitely going to be some critical analysis on this one. As Twig said, part of the most important part is knowing and playing your role. And in this one, I don't think I do a great job as the support player. Part of what I'm supposed to do is really support the front line, and I am definitely slow to get there. I attempt to go a little bit too heavily into things and don't quite give the front line exactly what they need.
I'm going to defend you for a second. So, in the higher level games on Supreme Isthmus, the role that you're playing here as the support, you'd usually give off some wind and stuff to the brown and the pink player on the front line, maybe 4 each is I think the current meta. Just the first things you build after your mexes and a couple wind for yourself, and just give them to them so they don't need to build their own wind and they get on that front line with units with their commanders. But looking at the bottom right end of the screen, you see the lowest OS player in the game, Battlestar, on one roll, and then you got Lee123, the pink player. Welcome to the game, 1 Chev. So you can't really expect much. So it's tricky for you. Instead of supporting, you have to play a role where you're almost kind of like a frontline player yourself. So you can't really support people who are still learning the game. And so it's tricky. It's tricky.
One of the craziest things I think is about to happen. We have 4 players on the front, and it's going to be the supporter that gets in there with the grave robbers and gets the medal.
Yeah, no one else going in. You can see similarly on the blue team, New Eurexis and Cypher, very new to the game and not getting those, both going into vehicles. I'd love to see a resbot out on the front line. There's 1,000 metal in the start, more than that, 1,200 or something. You got to get there.
There's enough metal that you can build the res lab, you can build the bot lab, get the res bots, and then build a vehicle lab, not eat the bot lab, and still be ahead.
Yeah.
Not that you should do that, it's just that you can.
And we got a familiar face in the backline, Eco Roosters. You're sharing all that extra metal to Roosters, giving a strong advantage to go straight into that T2 in less than 3 minutes in the game. So, look, you're not doing the typical role for support, but you're definitely doing your role well that you've adopted for this game. Frontline, all 4 players, just to analyse that front line. So I think what's really important for the front line, especially maybe this very frontline player, I like to go into the 1 max, even the 0 max. I think it's 2 wind, get given some wind straight into the lab, straight into the resbot, then build the mechs, build a constructor, get the commander on the front line and have a bit of a slow start in your base. But get that medal. By going and building only 1 mechs, couple wind, and a lab, you are the first player to have res out in the front line. You can get some grunts or pawns up there as well to support and deny the opposition. So it's a very, very fast start, and you're guaranteed over half of that medal in the middle by doing that start, unless, of course, your opposition does the exact same start. Okay.
Just jumping straight into one of the reasons that I ended up not supporting the front line as much as I should have in the T1 stage. If we look at Battlestar, he's just cancelled it, but his build order was 5 wins into 3 construction turrets.
Yeah, so learning the game, and once again, absolute right choice not to play as a support player, but then rather play as a player to fill the gaps. for what's needed. You're doing the right thing. So no criticism there on your current plays. You got most of the mechs for the metal back into your eco player, and as a result, the red team, you can see eco advantage right now overall. Let's look what's happening over in Geo. Pretty standard starts. Wouldn't be bunching the wind up like the purple player is doing here, and a very early T2 out of the maroon player. I don't mind that. Getting the Geo up, that is enough to go into T2. Players, you can see a lot of metal quite full, so this is where Dark Lee and Battlestar, the two frontline players, they're full on metal. Give it to the Geo player, give it to your eco player. Get them to get to T2 as fast as possible, because that'll make your life a hell of a lot later. Your job is to protect that front and get that eco back to the team. Over to eco. Sorry, you go, mate.
And having a quick look at what I'm doing. When I saw the starts that we had on the front line, I've jumped straight into effectively a King of the Hills build, where I've just put down some build turrets. I've got some builders going out, and I'm just trying to spam that early game economy as quickly as possible to try and get some T2 on the front line and actually be able to build it and support it, compared to just getting it there.
I don't mind it. So this is like a T1.5 eco in a way. So it's going to be T1 eco that is strong enough to build T2 units, those Sheldons, those Fiends, those cheaper T2 units, but ones that definitely pack a punch once they get in numbers.
Yep. Because with the very early choices that the frontline players have made, I've got no confidence in the hold, even with me supporting them. So I've decided to try and go for a composition that would allow me to hold the front even if they fall.
Alright, I'm going to return just looking around the map. So the eco players, let's do a bit of a comparison of everyone. Rooster's a very standard build. I've seen this one out of them before, similar to the Drongo build. Same happening on the other side as well. Looks like we've got resbots going around the map and giving most of the energy that the eco player needs to get to that T2 and getting those mixes upgraded. So almost neck and neck, I'd say the Cyan player slightly ahead of Roosters there. And yeah, this is looking like an atrocious build. Sorry, Duck. Yeah.
T2 lab off of 17 wind is not enough.
Yeah, and 3 chefs. I mean, 3 chefs is new, but not that new that you should know. Like, reclaim your T1 lab to give the medal. Build probably triple the energy that has. Don't be building converters, which actually take a lot of energy to build, 1100 each, when you don't even need to use them. Let's look at the other teams. Just getting those mexes upgraded exactly like you should, making sure you got enough units flying around. You can see a small army of fighters on the front line, ready to react to anything in case the opposition's going into any sort of bombing shenanigans. And not heavily investing into units. I probably would turn the lab off while getting those 3 mexes upgraded, and then turn it back on whilst the constructor walks over to the 4th one. So I do prefer the greens air start there. Looking at the Cs. Yeah.
Red doing quite well in their C. They've got blue boxed all the way up. They've got control of the island. And they're just starting to scale their economy as they're getting their destroyers out to maintain their presence. But on the flip side, in the long C, complete and total dominance from the green player.
Yeah, so the blue player, I just want to point out at this point of the game, even though the red's got their army, they need to be using it, because the blue player does have more mixes available to them than the red does. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, compared to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, no, they got less, but they got the Geo.
They got a Geo.
Yeah. And you can include these.
There is no reason that these Riptides should be sitting where they are.
Yeah, so the red player probably not being aggressive enough. They did at least get this these metal extractors on the island, but if you're going to let the blue player scale their eco, now they're just like transition. They're not really expanding their eco too much now. They've got enough energy. They've got the Geo up. They're going to just focus on getting units out. And yeah, red player, lots of units. Could be taking out these mexes. Orange player, don't love their start. They're going into a big build of eco, making sure that they've got enough here to go and then build on the the C next to the where you started, the support position.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna. Yeah, the radar picks this up, and we've got these beholders here. Brilliantly done. They see exactly what's here, keeping the destroyer just out of the range of those jellyfish. That destroyer, it's just, unless you've got like 10 construction turrets, it's going to just keep popping off the start of the build for this shipyard. Anyway, what have we not looked at? Geo's T2 here. That's quite a good build out of Maroon, so not bad. Your Gebo player. The purple one, quite late to T2. I don't actually know what they're doing. They're being one Chev, so no criticisms there. What you want to do, Mr. Social Suicide, you want to be upgrading that Geo as fast as possible, getting a few wins out, getting some res bots to reclaim the metal and the wind available to you, and then going straight into the T2 lab whilst reclaiming the T1 lab at the same time, and then give out those T2s. I do like to see when T2 is given out by the Geo player rather than the Eco player. The Eco player, sure, give one to the wind, maybe give one to the long sea, but if you go a little bit too hard into building units and all that and not getting the T2 out, your team might suffer later on. What's the tactics here? So you're currently...
I'm just about to transition to T2.
Yeah, you've done the lab, and
I've been supporting the front line with Wolverines, which has effectively blunted any of their offenses. And I'm transitioning around the same time as their support player. Just having a quick look, their support player is currently sitting at a plus 33 on metal or thereabouts, and I'm sitting at a plus 55. So definitely, even though their support player is getting into that puddle, definitely well ahead of their support player.
Yeah. One thing you had happen in your base here, you had a T2 constructor on a build queue. So it had been building all the T2 mexes and went straight into fusion. It happened to be when you put down the advanced spot lab as well.
Yeah,
so that 15% there of metal is probably would get the lab to about 90% metal, and then with the reclaim of the vehicle plant, that would have been finished, and then go into the T2 lab, which you know, your eyes are elsewhere.
My eyes are elsewhere, and I also had the metal to finish the T2 lab. Not even a question. I just wasn't paying attention. I was doing other things.
Okay, now this is really interesting, and this is key, and this is what I want to say. Like, if you are starting in the short C position, your job, like, you gotta win the C, because there are 3 players along this coast that will get taken out if the long C player for the other team, so on your short C side, if they lose, like, you're losing 3 economies and your front line as well. So make sure you win. I do like the Maroons going into these ducks to help support, and they should do enough to, like, definitely push back, because blue is now in a commanding lead. They have
which they just shouldn't be able to get into. There's no way
6,000
that they should be. Yeah. There's no way that the blue C should have been out from where red was at 8 minutes. There is no way that blue should be where they are now at 12, unless you completely stop attacking.
And look what's happening. Weebarrow's going with 3 of these death cavalries and resurrecting everything rather than reclaiming it. So nicely done, increasing that army value there. And what are we at? We're at 7,400 compared to 6,500. Blue will win this battle if there's no support happening. So the ducks will hopefully push that back. That's what we need to see. But unfortunately, because this is happening now, Maroon's not supporting the front line, and they have T2. That could have been a good point in the game where T2 could have won the front line, because there's no T2 for the blue team.
T2 is coming up from me though, just starting its march across, trying to get some range in there to harass, and I'm not so expecting to beat this many tanks. I'm hoping that just the presence of the T2 will push them back, because I know that they're somewhat inexperienced.
Yeah. Can you imagine if yourself and the Maroon player were now T2 at the same time pushing in the front line? I reckon that's game 1. You get some anti-air compositions in there, because let's be honest, this air player is just down and out. I don't know really what they're doing. I'm not even going to comment.
I forgot we had an air player.
Yeah. I've seen in the chat from Roosters, they've been commenting a few times like, oh no, there's no airplay. Going into a nuke. We do see this quite a bit out of Roosters, but there is an anti-nuke in the back line with a tracer. Do we see any... I'm looking for spy bots. I don't see any spy bots over there, so is it just going to be a ping in the dark? Might be.
Let's have a quick look at the Roosters vision. Yeah, so if I were Roosters, if I don't have vision of what's going on in the back line...
Walking down the isthmus now as we speak. Yeah, you can see it's tracking the coast there, the coast not easily covered. And yeah, look at that, all the way into there, but it's probably going to get detected by the tracer.
One of the things to, at least for me, if I ever go a nuke rush, if I don't have good vision, I won't try and nuke the eco player because I expect them to be covered. I'll try and nuke somewhere that I don't expect to be covered. Like I might try and take out the geo player, or I might try and take out the support player or something like that. Not always. I might just throw the nuke into the back lines, but it will depend on the timing that the nuke comes up. In this case, with it being 15 minutes, I would be flipping a coin as to whether I would try to nuke the eco player.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I'd try and put my nuke somewhere that I can almost guarantee there won't be an anti-nuke yet.
Now, I can see a walking queue from these ducks going up onto the land. I'd actually do what ducks do best and stay in the water and just take out this sea. They could literally take out this position here. Going up onto the land, these destroyers suddenly from being a massive disadvantage are now going to win this engagement. And I also would have left some ducks over here where the riptides are because they don't have a depth charge and therefore, yeah. Oh, look at that. That's a great reaction out of the air player. Spill shot taking out these just with the atomic bomber. No chance of those doing much damage at all. They'll go down pretty quickly.
The thing which blows me away is that they have an atomic bomber and our air player has like...
some T1 fighters.
Like 7 T1 fighters.
Sorry, mate.
On the front line, my shoulders are doing what shoulders do best.
T3 from your frontline player Battlestar off of 385. Oh my god.
This was the point where I knew we were going to lose.
Yeah.
I saw the T3 lab on the front line and I was like, oh yeah, cool.
Don't give the game away, bro.
3 mexes.
That is just not great. Like, sometimes there's just bad decisions and then there's like... This player is... a silver chevron player, so I'm sorry Battlestar, but either you are playing for the other team with a nerf account and just like giving free vision to yourself, or yeah, just I'd suggest watching some YouTube videos, which you probably don't do at 0S.
100%. Like if this had been out of the pink player, I would have said, okay, first game, like single chev, it is what it is. But I just absolutely lost for words. Actually lost for words. 17-minute T3 lab off of 18 wind.
Yeah. Air actually doing something, taking some gunships in to take on the Blue Navy, but they go down instantly because there's not many support planes. So
not enough support planes.
And now, as a result, Green's going to get a perfect scout of everything, but thank goodness for all these flaks. That is going to probably... No, I thought that would scare off.
One gets through. Oh no, they're actually...
Yeah, they're going to get good vision. I'm just going to jump over to that player view. They're doing a fight command. No, they're going to...
Yeah, that's the fight command did him in because of that one landed Hornet.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Look at the front lines. Look at the front lines. The T3 frontline player is about to do something spectacular. And yes, I know my Sheldons are shooting at things that they're not doing anything. So we're about to see something absolutely wonderful out of that frontline player, and I see it. I see that it's going to happen. I try to back up, but I need to be doing damage. And if your commander is being hit by stuff, don't run it back into the army.
That hurts. I feel your pain. That T3 lab now at 95% whilst building an advanced geo.
Here's the nuke.
A nuke hits the geo, so there's some hope for your team. Roosters, yeah, Roosters going off of a 2 fusion nuke, probably off of a 1 fusion nuke actually, to get one off by the 16-minute mark. Oh, sorry, is that 18? 16:49. Not too bad for the timing of a nuke. Didn't go into the back line. That's they've obviously scouted with the Spectre. Yeah, they had scouted through there. So using that Spectre, deciding to actually go for that Geo player. Really, the Geo player probably wasn't doing that much, and the Roosters probably didn't know that. So not the biggest loss for that team. And now
here comes the second nuke into the front line. So the reason the nuke was so late was because Roosters waited for, at least it looks like it's because Roosters waited to be able to get 2 in the chamber.
Yeah, okay, so
and
not bad there.
Using the hole in the front,
yeah,
going to be charging on through with all the fiends that I built. Unfortunately, right as the welders come into the front line, this is some bad timing.
And if you had that army that didn't die to the
to
the commander, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you get through here.
I definitely do get through, but I'm down to 12 damaged fiends compared to the 40 that I went in with, which is just painful. And I don't have the Sheldons in the back. I don't have the Sheldons to back them up as much as I need them. And great defense, nuclear bomber. Yeah. What a good defensive unit.
Air player there with some anti-air at least, but not enough, obviously, being the lesser of the two. Skilled, in terms of skilled air players, are not enough to defend there, and that one Fiend doing a little tiny bit of damage, but going to go without taking out any units. Orange finally in the water in the north, so not bad considering the amount of metal that had to be spent on actually building up the eco to be able to put that in the water. And another nuke going down. We've got some more scouting, or you've probably just scouted for them. Probably a lucky one there, because there was an anti-nuke truck and it just hadn't loaded yet. Nicely done.
Right, yeah, good timing on that one. And saving the nuke up to be able to have those 2 in the chamber meant that 2 nukes got off, and that third one basically got off before the anti-nuke was available, which is great.
Now let's talk about a problem. Let's talk about a problem. So we've had a nuclear rush play that's hit 3 locations. That should win a game. And that would win a game if it was a slightly higher ranked game. You've got, pretty much free path through here. If the Geo player on your team, if yourself and the 2 frontline players all had units, instead only really you have enough units to attack, maybe a few from Pink, and if Maroon wasn't focused on winning that C, that's a win. This is the time, like, if there are enough units here, that was a tactic. If there's a communication from the eco player, so maybe Roosters, you've got to make it really clear that you're going for a nuke rush. Players need to build up and take advantage of that position, because right now, like,
but what's happening
blue
now
team
is
has been able to eco more because they haven't gone for a nuke rush, and they're T3. And
this player has done exactly what we talk about in a lot of those games, where once you get your first APHIS up, make a decision about whether you should be going units. And this player should definitely be going units with all this wind as well. That APHIS has allowed for a huge amount of T3 hovers to get into our short C, which has completely crippled the offensive Red and Maroon had managed to put together, and then getting a huge amount of Marauders to go through the C that they control. This is going to be a big hit from the blue team, and the question is going to be whether or not it outscales the damage done by those nukes.
Yeah.
And if, as Twig said, if we had more frontline, if we had more players doing more things, then by destroying the frontline Nexus's player, we should have been able to get in and win the game.
4th nuke just hit. I've never seen a game lost with a 4th nuke, so if you're indicating that this is a loss, like that's just unfortunate. Very good out of the blue team's back line and their blue player for what looks like a comeback on the C. And these T3, what are they called? The lunkheads?
Lunkheads.
Not a big fan of these units. They're pretty shit, but they do have their purpose, and their purpose is doing exactly what these are doing right now. There's only like a handful of them, and supported by the T2 boats, that's going to be a loss now for both Cs. for this team. And
But also, the other thing which is also happening is
orders.
the air player that has moved their air screen over the ocean and is torpedo bombing any of the eco that's happening for the red player.
Hmm.
This is just positional domination. If you're not playing your role, if you're not doing your role, then you cause a lot of pressure to everyone else.
Yeah.
And you end up in situations like this where every factor is going wrong for the red sea player.
The blue team's advantage right now is eco, air, and sea. The red team's advantage right now is front line, and unfortunately the front line is not enough. It's there and it will push through, but look what you're up against in 2/3 of the map. If that front line doesn't win, it's just not gonna be a win.
The blue eco player has eaten their lab, turned it into another APHIS, probably going to get yet another APHIS. It's in the build queue. And because I'm slow pushing, because that's what I have to do, they have the opportunity to get that third APHIS, get that, and then go back into T3, and they'll still have their T3 units before I even make it to something valuable. Because right now, if they lose their support player, if they lose their geo player, if they lose the land portion of their sea player, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. These Rauders have been pulled on the orange player now, so
Look
I
at
see
my
a
terrible
few.
D guns.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at this.
You got one, did you?
Oh man. Oh man, I'm just the worst at controlling a comm.
The red player's been telling Roosters to go and take back the sea, but because of that nuke rush, there's no eco there to do that. So, I mean, yeah, it would be great to take back the sea. It's not going to happen on this eco, and having to build units to defend what is currently in the base, and that is those lunkheads that came up into the air player. And yeah, it's looking like game over. These beamers actually go alright against the Marauders.
Beamers are great. Like, if there's one thing that King of the Hill has taught me, it's that beamers are one of the best defense turrets in the game.
Yeah. And I love them for a Nostradamus maneuver. If you guys haven't seen that before, it's where you build a bunch of the T2 transport aircraft for Armada and an absolute field of the beamers which can be transported, and walk them in. So you can see you've pushed through and you're well into the back line, but the Cyan player has just gone into the T3 lab, has 11,000 metal. They just need to build a few of exactly what they're doing.
Some Razorbacks will clean this up nicely.
Yeah, so even though the front line's won, if it got won when those nukes hit, the game would be over in the opposite direction. There would have definitely been pushback out of the Cyan player in the eco and building units quickly, but they only had one APHIS, I think, at that stage when the first two nukes hit. You've got to take advantage of nuke hits. It is a great way to win a game, and it usually does win the game. And wow, that'll start going into a juggernaut off of nothing.
I know. I just look.
Yeah.
If you want to be the person that builds T3 units, don't play frontline.
Yeah, your
you
job
can
is
get
T1.
there. Any player can get there late enough into the game, but this juggernaut has been building since this T3 lab was started at about 15 minutes.
Yeah, so
and it's put out one catapult, and it's not even 21% into its second unit.
Yeah, a lot of frustration up in the chat there about not attacking frontline properly. But yeah, it is what it is. So unfortunate for the red team. This is definitely going to be a loss now, this far behind. And maybe a lesson for you, Pradith and Roosters. I know you're playing together quite a bit.
Play backline.
Play backline, but also maybe join lobbies without one chefs or zero S players. Yeah, I remember back in the day when I was 7 OS back in the day. I think I'm about 30 now, and I would be the person that created lobbies just because I got so frustrated, and I'd put that min rating level and I'd put it at like 1, so you couldn't have zero chefs, you couldn't have people purposely throwing the game, and I have a feeling that could have been what Brown was doing this game. Shouldn't criticise like that and accuse, I should say, but it just seems that way. Zero chev is hard to get. And then, yeah, also you want to put that min chevron level at 2 chevs. Nothing wrong with having one chef players in there, but I have seen some of those ultra noob games go around where it's like max OS 17. I encourage the one chef players to jump into those ones.
It's
Learn a little bit before you jump in the game.
it's definitely one of those things where you have to play to learn. But if you're someone that's trying to do what we're doing, which is a road to 25, sometimes you have to be a little particular with the lobbies, because one of the things that I've definitely learned from playing through these, a lot of the losses came from an inability to win the game, and more so from outright losing in the position that I was in. I've definitely made some questionable decisions. I know that trying to do nuke rushes from the eco position is a way to lose the game, but it's also a way to lose the game if you aren't successful with them. And this is a great example of where even the success wasn't quite enough. But I don't actually think that if Roosters had gone full eco, whether or not this game would have ended very differently, because that would have meant that the front line would have fallen even harder to more players. So
Yeah. Well, that's
it's sort of a hard one. Everyone needs to learn the role that they're playing, and as Twig just said, one of the best ways to do it is to practice it. It's to look up builds, particularly if you're going to be in a pivotal role like C, or a highly adaptive role like Geo. Learning exactly how to adapt and how to win your lane is very important, because short C really does need to win. If short C doesn't win, as Twig said much earlier in the video, it puts the Geo player at risk. And if the Geo player's at risk, the front line's at serious risk.
Yeah. Well, I just see the air player building a bunch of ballisticas and actually taking out his own player's fusion and anti-nuke. That's not how to play air. Sorry, mate.
So just with those ballisticas, if you use the attack range where he's built those ballisticas takes you not even halfway over the land bridge. That means those ballisticas should not exist.
Yeah. Up here on this hill,
ballisticas are offensive weapons.
That's a good spot to put them. Finally, the cream player allowing. I saw that they kept voting no to the resign. Guys, like, unless it's like a 1v1 or even a 1v2, 2v2, like, just resign if you've lost the game. Just waste a lot of time. The Mighty Meow going in there for doing everything. Nicely done. They came with a strong eco. Obviously, all their damage and effect at the end of the game, as usually happens from the eco player. Yeah, you can just see it jumps up as soon as they start building the units, about 2/3 of the way through the game. I did see some comments from them saying that they're just too good, that's why they won. I disagree with that. You had a team that won both Cs, so you got to walk straight into the bases. I think you'd get rolled with those words in a high OS lobby.
Yep.
Unfortunate for your team, Praedyth. There's probably about half the roles got played properly.
You're not going to win every game when you're doing a road to 25, and it's like one of the reasons we wanted to show this game was because it was a loss despite doing everything in my power to prevent it. Yeah, and that's going to happen, and you just have to make sure that you don't let that stop you from playing, because this sort of thing will just happen. It is a team game. You do have to be reliant on your team. You can do as much as you feasibly can. And everyone else needs to do that bit as well. And there will be games where you're the problem as well. That's not actually the end of the world, as long as you then watch the replay and look at what you could have done better. For me in this one particularly, I know that between the 7 and 12 minute mark, I really could have done better. My eco stalled multiple times. I didn't do proper reclaiming. I had the wind to have more build power, which I didn't have. And I could have gotten that T2 on the front line better. Then when I was on that front line, I was just using fight commands because I wouldn't say I was being lazy. It's just the style of play that I do. And it meant that my units were in that position to be killed by the comm. I thought it might happen, and I still left them there. So a lot like that. There are things that I definitely could have done better with, and when the fiends went in, I saw all of those welders, and I could have said, okay, I know that player that owns those welders is dead because of the nuke, which means that I don't actually need to try and run past this. I can let my Sheldons weaken it, or I can draw them to one side, then run all the way around them because my units are much faster. And so I lost a lot of units to things I didn't need to. I could have swapped over, and if I knew that attack was coming, because I was in chat with Roosters, so I knew the nuke was coming, and I knew I was going to attack as soon as it was afterwards. I could have stopped. I could have eaten my T2 lab, put two T1 labs down, and started the spam going through immediately. So then those heavy hitting shots were hitting the spam, allowing the Sheldons to punch a hole, and then I could have run the Fiends through the hole. So I do think that there are things I could have done to win this game.
Having said all that, you've done the most damage dealt for the for the red team most of the time. The red player also doing quite a bit, and the maroon player coming up late in the game. And I just want to also point out two other things. The units produced. You can see, active units even, how much more dominant the blue team was. It was really only you that had a good number of units consistently through the game. So yeah, a little bit too much. Yeah, it was unfortunate with some of the experience of the game. That's what I'll say there. Finally, I just want to put out one more thing, and you can. I used to do the same move that Roosters just did with the nuke rush. I got a lot of my OS out of nuke rushes in Supreme Isthmus. A little bit of an abuse of learning a build order for that. I jumped up quite a few OS, but you can see what happens here. It's very hard to see on this graph, but you can see the pink line there about halfway through the chart. That's an eco player's metal produced, and their eco is obviously quite atrocious for an eco player, and that's the trade-off. If you go the nuke rush, which was very effective, 4 nukes hit, like usually 1 or 2 nukes hitting does the damage, but if one of them's not the eco player, if you're not nuking the eco player, and taking out your opponent, and then you don't manage to come back on your eco, like Roosters has had to react and build units to get into the sea, units to defend on both sides of the eco peninsula. You're not playing your role there. So absolutely fine what Roosters did, but it's a risk that didn't pay off this game. All right.
And that's the thing. Every time you do a strategy, you're trying to win in a way as compared to
don't take
everything.
that. I would always encourage a nuke rush. If I can tell you at the start, if someone can tell me at the start of a game, your 4 nukes are going to land on the opposition's economies at this game,
no worries.
I would be like, oh, you've won the game. So this was very rare to see a loss. So don't take that as a negative, Roosters. You did exactly the right thing and you reacted in the right way. You just didn't have an eco because you didn't win the game, and that is more than acceptable. All right, guys.
Thanks everyone for watching. If you enjoyed it, jump on into the Discord, link in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. The channel's been growing quite a lot recently because of some of the King of the Hill games and because of this series, so we appreciate everyone that's watching and participating. If you've got if you ever see anything in my play that you think could be much improved, do not hesitate to reach out in the comments, because I really am trying to get better.
No worries. Thanks, guys, for watching.
And we'll catch you next time.